Have you ever wondered what happened to the MG42 gunners who finally surrendered after mowing down wave after wave of Allied soldiers on open beaches? The men behind Hitler's Buzzsaw faced a terrifying choice on June 6, 1944. Keep firing until the beach was clear, or die behind their guns trying. But for those who survived, their ordeal was far from over. The MG42 machine gun, a pivotal weapon on D-Day, was a marvel of engineering that instilled fear into the hearts of Allied soldiers. Known as Hitler's Buzzsaw because of its distinctive sound, caused by a blistering fire rate of around 1,200 to 1,350 rounds per minute, the MG42 could effectively mow down attackers with chilling efficiency. Each MG42 was typically manned by a three-man corps: the gunner, the assistant gunner, and the ammunition bearer, often supported by additional men carrying barrels and ammo to maintain the gun's relentless rate of fire, using 250 round belts of 7.92mm ammunition. On Omaha Beach, these crews were strategically positioned in Widerstandsnester, or resistance nests, which were fortified zones meticulously planned to deliver maximum defensive impact. These nests were not isolated. Many were designed to support each other with overlapping fields of fire, covering key approaches to the beach. The placement of MG42s in these strongpoints allowed the German defenders to create deadly interlocking arcs of fire, making parts of the Allied advance perilously deadly. Historical accounts from U.S. soldiers vividly describe the beach as being swept with sheets of lead, an almost impenetrable barrier of bullets. From their bunkers and pillboxes, MG42 crews had clear sightlines over the approaches to the beach. One veteran gunner later recalled that the sea was covered with boats and men, and in the early morning light, every target was clear. This setup, combined with the MG42's efficiency, was a nightmare scenario for the Allies attempting the largest amphibious invasion in history. But when dawn broke on June 6, 1944, these carefully prepared positions would face the largest amphibious invasion in human history. The looming battle tested not just the might of these formidable machines, but also the resolve of the men operating them, setting the stage for a brutal confrontation that would mark both a turning point in the war and a profound personal ordeal for those at the triggers of the world's most feared machine guns. This day would reveal the true impact of the MG42 on the war's outcome and on the men who wielded it. As dawn broke on June 6, 1944, the Allied forces launched a massive aerial and naval bombardment aimed at neutralizing German defenses along the Normandy coast. The primary target among these were the heavily fortified bunkers housing the MG42s, the machine guns that could fire around 1,200 to 1,350 rounds per minute, known terrifyingly as Hitler's Buzzsaw. Despite the intensity of the bombardment, many of the concrete bunkers remained largely intact, much to the dismay of the invading forces. A private from the 1st Infantry Division recalled, "We were told the big guns would be silent, smashed by the Navy. But as we hit the beach, those damned MG42s started up, and I knew we were in a different kind of hell." The psychological impact of the MG42 was profound. Its unique, rapid-fire sound created a terrifying acoustic signature that many Allied soldiers recalled in their memoirs. One corporal described the noise as the Devil's Symphony, noting that each burst from that gun was like hearing death knock at the door. The sheer volume of fire produced by these weapons pinned down entire companies on the beach, contributing to the severe casualties within the first hours of the invasion, alongside artillery, mortars, mines, and the chaos of the landings. Amidst this chaos, the German gunners experienced a complex turmoil. Many were young conscripts, such as a 19-year-old from the 352nd Infantry Division, who found himself operating an MG42 at Omaha Beach. In a post-war interview, he recounted, "The noise was deafening, even to us behind the gun. We were firing non-stop, but each trigger pull felt like I was signing someone's death warrant. The relentless incoming fire and the sight of advancing troops instilled a haunting fear in these young soldiers, trapped in their bunkers, aware that their survival hung by a thread. As casualties mounted and the beaches turned red, small groups of desperate men began the seemingly impossible task of silencing these positions. One such group was led by a non-commissioned officer from the 2nd Ranger Battalion. They used a combination of smoke grenades and sheer bravery to advance upon a bunker near Pointe du Hoc. He later described the moment of assault. Every step forward was a victory against that infernal machine. When we finally silenced it, the silence was as shocking as the gunfire had been. This initial encounter on D-Day not only exemplified the terrifying effectiveness of the MG42, but also highlighted the sheer human resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. The Allies' relentless push under constant threat and the moral and physical strain on the German defenders underscored the brutal realities of warfare, where technology and human endurance intersected dramatically. As Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944, overcoming the fearsome MG42 machine guns became crucial. The MG42, with its staggering firing rate of around 1,200 to 1,350 rounds per minute, earned the nickname Hitler's Buzzsaw. Allied tactics had to adapt rapidly. Squads targeted MG42 crews during the brief moments of barrel changes and reloading, times when the gunners were most vulnerable. A private from the 1st Infantry Division recounted, "We'd count the bursts of fire and time our moves. When the firing paused, we knew they were changing barrels or reloading, and that was our moment to act." The assault on these positions often involved brutal close-quarters combat. Grenades were lobbed into bunkers to dislodge the crews before making a final rush. This type of engagement was starkly personal and visceral, leaving lasting impressions on both sides. A sergeant from the 29th Infantry Division described it as a desperate kind of fighting, where you see the whites of their eyes. You knew that to hesitate was to die. These assaults were not without moral implications. The Allies faced the grim task of neutralizing positions that had been responsible for high casualties among their ranks, often leading to hardened attitudes towards the gunners. The moral complexity deepened when it came to handling the survivors among the German defenders. After witnessing the catastrophic impact of MG42 gunners on their comrades, many Allied soldiers struggled with sentiments of retribution versus the principles of humane treatment dictated by the Geneva Conventions. There are accounts suggesting that in the heat of battle, some immediate emotions ran high, leading to summary actions on the battlefield that later weighed heavily on those who carried them out. As one historian notes in an analysis of post-battle reports, the line between justified battlefield action and reprisal can blur under such intense strain and immediate grief. For those gunners who survived both the assault and the immediate aftermath, a different kind of reckoning awaited. Captured MG42 operators were often met with a mix of disdain and grudging respect by their captors. One infantryman who participated in the capture of several gunners reflected in his memoirs, "You looked into their eyes and saw not monsters, but young men as scared as we were. But remembering the friends I'd lost to their bullets, it was hard to feel sympathy." The treatment of these prisoners varied, influenced by the immediate circumstances of their capture and the individual judgments of the victorious soldiers. This stark confrontation between tactical necessity and moral judgment captures the essence of the Normandy invasion's complexity. It highlights the brutal realities of warfare where technological superiority intersects dramatically with human morality and the instinct for survival. Following the chaos of D-Day, many German MG42 gunners, like Heinrich Severloh, who survived, were haunted by the memories of the battlefield. Severloh, famously known as the Beast of Omaha for his role at WN62, where he reported firing over 12,000 rounds, struggled deeply with guilt after the war. Concealing his identity for decades, he lived with the burden of the lives he took on that fateful day. It was not until 2000 when he published his memoirs, WN62, Erinnerungen and Omaha Beach, Normandy, 6th of June, 1944, that he publicly recounted his role, presenting a powerful narrative of his internal conflict. The long-term psychological impact on these gunners was profound. Many suffered from what would now likely be diagnosed as PTSD, grappling with nightmares, social isolation, and profound regret. Severlow himself recounted, "I am an old man now, and the war is long over, but the memory of that day has haunted me ever since." Attempts at reconciliation decades later marked a poignant chapter in the lives of these gunners. Severlow, in particular, sought forgiveness and understanding by reaching out to veterans and survivors of D-Day. His participation in documentaries and interviews helped foster a dialogue that was crucial for his own healing process and contributed to broader efforts at reconciliation between former enemies. Historians and psychologists have noted that the process of sharing their experiences publicly, often painful and fraught with difficulty, was crucial in helping these veterans cope with their past actions. Through these dialogues, many former gunners found a semblance of peace, understanding that sharing their stories could educate future generations about the horrors of war and the importance of peace. The bunkers still stand in Normandy today, silent stone witnesses to a morning when ordinary men were forced to do extraordinary and terrible things, reminding us that behind every trigger and in front of every gun sight was a human being who never forgot what happened on those beaches. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more World War II history. Thanks for watching.